Hey, welcome back to the Fans in Motion podcast, the only podcast that you didn't know you needed. I'd like to say real quick, as this is being recorded, we have our Friends in Motion on the way to see Night Ranger currently. So my lyric today for you guys is Penny, the arcade is getting old. Penny, I've got 2 cities on hold. Say hello, Josh.
Oh, Penny.
I dug that out for Brent.
Wow.
2 things. It's Kelly, and they're playing 2 cities this weekend. And I wanted to get it off my list of songs, so it's done.
And the Fans in Motion are there, so that's great.
The Friends in Motion. I'm coining that one tonight. Our Friends in Motion are there tonight.
That's a whole nother page.
My attorney is already trademarked it.
Dang it. I'll send you a quarter. So what's been going on, Josh? This is part 2, right? We're introducing part 2 of the Kelly Keagy interview. These things are great. I don't know how far this is going to go. You want to tell us a little about what to expect in this these next few hours of interview with Kelly?
Well, what I can tell you is I can tell you about parts 2 and 3. I don't know exactly. I haven't edited yet. A little bit behind the curtain stuff, so I don't know exactly where my cutoff point is. But I'll talk in general what you're going to hear. You're going to hear Kelly's move to Oregon. You're going to hear his start with his bands touring throughout the Northwest, Nevada, Washington, and California, all those states. You're going to hear his first really good professional band, Rags. We get into that. You're going to hear Rubicon. You're going to hear Stereo. And you're going to hear the details. He talks about the members in Rags and what they recorded and what's out there. We ask him, tell us about the first time you met Jack. Tell us about the first time you met Brad. Every member. I hold up a Dawn Patrol album and we go over, where is this at? Whose idea was this? The credits,
Yes.
Who they're thanking. Who are the people here? We get all those stories for the hardcore fans. So episodes part 2 and 3, if you like part 1, you're going to like 2 and 3 even more.
And can I add real quick, does he also, tell me if I'm wrong, I remember, does he tell us Penny is a carryover from a previous band?
You'll have to listen and find out. I ain't telling you guys all that shit. But yes, we do get into that. We get into the songs of what songs went from Stereo to Night Ranger. And we discussed who's in the lineup. How did that lineup morph into Ranger? Was Jeff and Fitz ever in Stereo? All that good stuff. Stay tuned.
Yeah, and how about Kelly sending pictures in to put on the video podcast anyway? For those who aren't viewing it, Josh has put some pictures in, and it's fantastic seeing his family, things that we've never seen before.
Yeah, that's a good one to bring up, Brent, because I guess just being so close to it and working in it, I just don't think, if you're listening to this, go to the YouTube when you get time and watch them as well, because I tried to include photos. And when I was talking to Kelly, setting this up, and kind of giving him our vision, that was one of them is, get me a pic of mom and dad. And, I asked him after we did the interview, I was like, okay, you got to get me one of dad in the military. And so he did. He, I think, went through some of his archives and sent them to me. And so there's some great ones that I've never seen in these upcoming episodes. And they're from Kelly's personal collection. I crop them a little bit, but I think one is maybe like a binder that he has, like a photo book or something, like to hold stuff. And I think it's him having it on his lap and taking a picture. Because you can kind of see the book and then his legs,
Gotcha.
but I crop it. But this is what's great about this stuff. It's straight from, Kelly, and it's rare stuff. And it's just, for hardcore fans like us, It's great.
Wow. And the newspaper footage you added in about the plane crash.
Those are all from Kelly.
Well, that put it on such much of a larger scope than what my brain could comprehend when he was telling it.
I think the only pictures I added was the F-86 and the DC-4 or whatever planes were. I pulled those up myself, but he had sent me the newspaper stuff as well. So.
Yeah, fantastic stuff.
Well, and speaking of touching back on the previous episode, and I'm still a little shocked and in awe that we got this thing going, and I love the reaction of the fans on the page, and people were guessing, and it's still cool. Like, I'm still telling people I work with, like, man, I just talked to Kelly Keagy, and they're like, yeah. I was like, no, I mean, you don't get that. Like I said, I think I put a comment on one of the maybe the YouTube page that there's a 15-year-old version of me that was shitting himself because I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. And the fact that we just let him talk, I mean, the feedback that I saw, people were just like, man, this is so good because, you know, Josh, you don't ask the same typical questions, and we're really just letting him talk. Tell your story, Kelly, which I think he's he's enjoying that.
We don't have to answer to no one. That's one thing. I mean, we don't have anyone above us who's paying us. It isn't like we're, clickbait. We're here just for ourselves, really. And then anybody else that wants to come aboard. That's the way I've always looked at it. And every artist we've talked to, I don't want to hear, the same questions about the same 3 topics. I want to know, everything leading up to that, and that's what's great. Like Eric Levy's story about, being at college and then doing the cruise ships. And what was it? Brandon Etheridge. I don't know what I'm going to do. And some dude at his, high school,
you should play the piano.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, you should come to my college. I got an opening. You can have a full scholarship. Okay. I mean, these stories and how fate and luck and opportunity and talent all meet is every story has that. And so, you're going to get all that here, fansinmotion.com.
Straight on.
Yeah, and on Brent's shirt.
Yeah, classic. Yeah. The classic Dawn Patrol. Got this in the mail today.
That is a nice looking
It looks better in person. You can actually see the 3D lines.
Yeah.
But I'm testing out different people to print shirts, and this one was almost $40.
Oh.
But it's sweet. It's
like being at a concert.
It is. I mean, it feels like Josh's Kiss shirt would. I mean, it's very thick.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm not getting like real,
Easy there, Slick.
No, I mean, I couldn't believe how professional the shirt was. I got this one through Custom Ink. They won't help me set up a store, so we're not going to go through them.
And see.
But they print a hell of a shirt.
Yeah.
So.
What about you, Brent? Have you any thoughts on the previous episode? Did you any feedback? Are you just still kind of a gobsmacked as I kind of am? I mean, again, I didn't get to say it on the page, but like, I had Kelly on my walls in my bedroom as a kid. I looked up and I got a scrapbook that behind me that's got pictures that I took from Circus Magazine.
I'm just full of Kelly.
Well, I mean, not just full of Kelly, but it's a bunch of it. But I mean, it's like for you and me, Brent. It's like when we met Gene, how just it hits you kind of in the face, like, oh my God, this person's been on my wall for 40 years, and now they're on my computer screen, and he's like, hey, Andy, I'm like, They're like Bobby Brady. It's time to change.
Yeah, but we play it off real well.
I think so.
I mean, it's not that it doesn't get past me what you're experiencing. It's just that I've got to remain. I don't want to fanboy out too much because there's going to be moments where it's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm in.
It's going to happen. I cannot wait till we get to the point where we can ask him, hey, do you remember that show at Bogart's on the Man in Motion tour? Did you get hit with produce or snack cakes by any chance?
Treats, let's be honest.
He says,
I would never have produce with me.
These people were throwing ho-hos at me.
Yeah.
Are you gonna fess up to that then or not?
I will. I don't know. I feel like A maroon.
Speaking of like fanboy and stuff, it's I'm always trying like when I'm going back and forth with schedules or whatever, like we were arranging for the photos, right? We were using this this website to basically condense everything and send all at one time, and we're going back and forth. We're having issues, and it suddenly wasn't Kelly Keagy no more. It was just like, just someone I'm working with trying to get something done, and like, what the hell am I doing wrong? Are you doing this? And maybe I'm doing that, and I got to stop, and I get the photos finally, and then when you see them, and obviously the ones you've seen with his parents,
sure.
But there's some rare Night Ranger ones I've never seen, which you guys will all see. When they come in, I'm like, yeah, that guy I'm just, troubleshooting and, I'm getting frustrated with myself with. I'm like, yeah, the other person on the other line was Kelly Keagy. I had to kind of remind myself. But,
it's not like some guy at work. It's like,
well, it became more of a job, where I'm like, hey, Can you get this? And he's like, yeah, I'll get this. And okay, I sent it. You got it. And I'm like, no. And all right, well, what am I doing wrong? What, it's like, you're just working a job. And then it's like, all right, that job I'm working right now is with Kelly Keagy, the dude that's on all my records and shit. So yeah, it's a cool experience, and it's great that he's on. And yes, we it's Friday night here. We're recording this the 26th, 25th, 26th.
26th.
Let's segue that into some Night Ranger news, Andrew.
All right. Take it away. Night Ranger news. Who has anything to talk about? Is there something going on that we should know about that we're not involved in?
There's a couple concerts going on.
We got
I'm so jealous. God, I want to be at a concert.
So
a concert so bad, and a Night Ranger concert even worse.
So they're in Florida this weekend. 2 shows.
Yeah.
One's at SeaWorld. I think SeaWorld's is tomorrow?
Tonight,
okay.
That's Orlando.
So
right? Yeah.
2 Night Ranger shows in Florida this weekend. Well, tonight, getting ready right now, are all Eastern time zone for us, except for you, Andrew, Central. And it's good though, knowing that right now they're backstage, getting pumped. They're probably listening to fucking some of the Fans of Motion previous podcast episodes.
I bet Kelly's like, check this out, guys. Yeah. Settle down, bros.
And Eric's like, man, I've been talking to them for fucking 6 months, mofo.
And, I can get Josh right now on the phone.
Yeah, they're both arguing.
But they're letting me tell the story that you guys will never let me tell.
Mm-hmm. And Jack's over there like, I want to talk to them. Give me their number. And they're fighting. They probably won't even go on the stage tonight because they'll be that close to breaking up because they're wanting to all to come on the Fans of Motion podcast. But I digress. We got a lot of, I won't say a lot, but we got a few members of the Fans of Motion page that are going to the concert tonight. And if you're new to this, go to Facebook, Fans in Motion, Night Ranger podcast. Search it, find it, join. That's where everybody's at for the podcast. Sarah Griffith, Barb Harrington, and Dwayne Vickers, I know, are all going. I think Dave Nadelman's going as well. Sarah and Dwayne both flew there, so they packed their bags and they can't wait.
It.
So if we're already on the page, you would be able to get stuff live feeds. So if you're listening to this and you're not on the page, join. So for the next round of concerts, I mean, you'll get live information, as it's going, and we get all kinds of live feeds. And what you got, Brent?
Well, this is when you're talking about the live feed. At 5:13, I get a private message from Dave Nadelman, and he writes, "I hope all these fuckers aren't going to the show." He was basically in a parking lot. Well, not a parking lot. Can you see that? Is it too bright?
Yeah, no, it's good right there.
Good right there.
Yeah, he's stuck. He was stuck in traffic, and I said, "I'm getting ready to walk out the door to pick up some food. I'll check you back when I get back in." You know
what? That right there is a direct result of Fans of Motion and our reach.
Yeah.
Because us talking about these concerts for the last few weeks, I bet if you all those cars right there, if you walked right down the middle of them and looked in, Fans of Motion on their dashboard playing through their iHeartRadio or Spotify or whatever the heck else we're on, iTunes. So yeah, that's a direct result of us. So Yeah.
Hey, let's not glaze over Dwayne Vickers' badass suitcase tag.
Yeah, the Night Ranger bag tag.
I need one of those. I don't know where you get it from, but I sure as heck want one.
He made that.
Well, he's going to have to make some for Andy.
Because I told him now he's going to have a bag tag called Flight Dwanger.
Yeah, that was great. But I want one of those. That is so cool, man.
Yeah, I believe he made it.
So, yeah, join the page and you'll see all kinds of great stuff and you'll be up to date on all the Night Ranger shows.
What was great about the post today about everybody going is I told them, hey, if you're all going to get together, get a group shot. It'll be nice to finally see people coming together because of this page. And I think it's awesome.
Yep.
I cannot wait to have that experience going to a show and meeting these people that we would have never met otherwise.
Right. And we talk to them all the time, and they send us crazy messages.
Yeah. Yeah. So super stuff.
Another thing we had was the 4-year anniversary of Don't Let Up being released. The last Night Ranger studio album. It's kind of hard to believe it was 4 years ago, but
that kind of shocked me. I was like, 4 years? Damn.
But we were lucky. We had 3 studio albums in 5-6 years. I mean, and that includes a live album in there somewhere and an acoustic album. So it's been, for 4 years, we really haven't had anything. It's been the longest time for a while with Night Rangers. So we've been really lucky. So we're lucky we got some stuff on the horizon.
Something's coming.
It was really cool when the Facebook popped it up as a memory for me the other day, and I posted it because that gives me some credibility. I'm not just making up stories. Oh yeah, I bought it the day it came out. Yeah, I got it the day it came out. I posted about it because in my post I went, yes, Night Ranger, because I know how some of my friends are.
Oh, absolutely.
Live it to now. Blah blah blah.
Some new product.
What do you got?
No, I haven't got it yet. It just was put up today. Revolution Saints, the first record that came out, I don't know, 7 years ago, something like that, which is the band with Dean Castronavo from Journey, Dead Daisies, Doug Aldrich, Whitesnake, Dead Daisies, and Jack Blades, Night Ranger, and miraculously not Dead Daisies, because everybody's been in that band.
Not yet.
But Frontiers is re-releasing that first record on colored vinyl.
Really?
And I don't remember the damn color now. But it is being released on a colored vinyl. I think there's 200 copies. That was on Frontiers Records. And then, there's a lot of Styx fans on the page as well. And our buddies over at the Culture Factory and I Love Vinyl, I don't know which one they like to use, but they are releasing Cornerstone 1979 studio album on red vinyl.
Yep.
You should be able to go through their website and get their stuff. I've ordered from them before. I just happen to be ordering some stuff, and it's on Target. .com, so I did order it through Target, the Styx one. So some new product, some new vinyl if you're you got money burning a hole in your pocket.
CultureFactoryUSA.com.
There you go. Brent's friends.
Hey, they're good people. They hooked us 3 up with those 2 records, and
absolutely take it anything they want to send our way.
Absolutely.
So.
Yep.
Well, so we got now. Anything else new we want to talk about?
Well, I think that's all for the Night Ranger news.
All right. So anything new that we want to talk about? Anything new stuff you want to show?
I don't have anything new, but I did come across this as I was going through the collection. I bought this. Let's see here, November 24th, 2014, and I'll say the individual's name. He's not on the page. I did look. Michael Henderson. But he's selling this on eBay, and I bought it. And I don't know if you guys can see that.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
It's metal.
I remember seeing those.
Now, it did wear a little bit, rust a little bit. But, I mean, I guess I could take the time and paint it or something. But, I mean, this is pretty good quality. metal, and I paid less than $20 for this. So you can see the size of it and, the artwork. So it's just...
That would look awesome on a vinyl bin for all your Night Ranger.
You know where it
center?
Looked awesomer? On my Pearl drum kit.
Yeah, you could be like Kelly.
That's what I'm saying, Josh. So, look, you've got my address. Just do me a solid, bro.
So there we go. There's something I've had in the collection for a while, but kind of forgot I had. So
very cool. Very
Brent?
Good find. Well, you mentioned this last week, but mine finally came in the mail. I got the Colin Blade CD finally. And,
nice.
I wanted to mention it because I listened to it. I listened to it several times, and it's quite good. I had sent a message to Andy. I'm like, you really need to check this thing out. Yeah. You could tell he's the son of Jack, although the songs are more, well, how would you classify them? Emo, would that be the word? They're more 1994's softer, but with an edge, with an acoustic guitar.
Well, these kind of remind me a little bit of Goo Goo Dolls, some of that stuff.
Yeah, kind of.
That's not bad, or...
No, it's not bad at all. It's real easy to listen to. It's not easy listening, but no, some of the things that you hear, it's just you could tell he has been influenced by his dad, and it's really cool. It's really cool to see what this at this point this kid had done.
Well, it's crazy to think too. I mean that record's old enough to vote. That came out 18 years ago. I mean, when you talk, just mentioning, well, it has a 90s feel to it. Well, came out probably recorded in 2002. But you can hear the songwriting, and he's co-wrote a few Night Ranger songs. I think he did some stuff on Jack's solo record, Rock and Roll Ride. So, like Brent said in the last episode, just search for it. You might find it for a higher price, because it's out of print. So don't buy it for $40-$50. Just you'll find it come up for anywhere between $10 and $20 and get your hands on it.
Yeah, I was on the phone with Josh and I was on eBay. I'm like, hey, I just found Colin Blades for $10 with 99-cent shipping, never open. I said, I'm going to buy that. He goes, oh, hell yeah, it's worth $10 to listen to it.
Yeah. So.
That's awesome.
And meanwhile, there was another one on there for $84 used. So
yeah, I'd go with the $10 all day.
Yeah, great stuff.
All day. So Brent, do you have anything fans in motion that you want to bring up and talk about? Any names you want to drop? Any posts you want to share?
Want to welcome Sal Herrera to the page.
Welcome, Sal.
Got a great name, Sal Herrera.
Sounds a little connected.
Yeah, I like it though. So yeah, he just said thank you for being on the page. I think it's cool. He's gonna love it. Then we got my eyes are bad. Roger Penton. Roger was sharing pictures of himself with the band throughout the years, and I believe he did a thing with Joel and Brad. Not Brad. Who was it? I think it was like at a rock and roll fantasy camp.
Well, yeah. He had some good photos of him with Kelly and Brad from the 80s.
Yeah, you did. And Michael Field. Michael Field had posted a picture of him, I think, with Kelly. Well, here, you guys, I'll pull it up here.
Yep.
That's Michael Cardelloni.
Yeah, it's Michael. I was waiting for you. I was going to see if you noticed it, Andy. You didn't see that this week?
I did.
Yeah, Michael Cardelloni, and I think he said something about 38 Special. Drum History Part 199 circa June 24, 2013. A special performance during the Bad Company Shoreline Amphitheater, San Jose, California.
Yeah, so Michael Carloni, he shared Michael Carloni's post. If Michael Carloni was a drummer for Damn Yankees, so if you find Michael Carloni on Facebook for the last 6 or 7 months, probably, he's been doing a daily thing of his history. So what did I say? Like post what 113 or something? You said or
199. I think
199. So
I didn't know it was Cardelloni's. That's great.
Yeah. So he's been going through and posting his whole history. So now he's up to, he's pretty recent, 2013 or whatever you said that was, and so yeah, go to if you like some Damn Yankees stuff. He's the Damn Yankees stuff is past, but he's been the drummer for Leonard Skinner for the last 20 years. So a lot of good Leonard Skinner stuff, but you still get the Night Ranger stuff, just like that post was right there, where Jack and Michael had met up somewhere on one of those tours and took some photos. So,
got a few more. Patricia Havner Bolander, welcome to the page. She posted some great shots she took of the boys.
Yeah, I
guess about a year or two ago. Let's see. Let me see. Got to give it up for, pardon me, for John Haynes. John Haynes.
Yeah.
He gets stuff from the band and he shares it. And all these 7 Wishes passes were going out. So fantastic. We got Brian Holland's been posting a lot of killer pictures. Here's a fantastic one. Almost Melissa Gong's pants, but they're white.
Check that out.
And the last one.
Yeah, I was hoping you mentioned John, because John's posts have been great.
Yeah, he's been fantastic since joining the page. And we've got one more newbie to the page, Donna Gallucci. Donna posted a cool picture of her and Jack together.
Yeah, look at that.
Very cool.
Great.
So, everybody new, welcome. Thanks for sharing. We love all the new fans of Motion. We love all the old fans of Motion.
I got a couple that I saw in there. Steve Romig shared all his tickets.
Yep.
Yeah.
So back from the 80s to Damn Yankees to recent. It's always fun seeing all those. And then
Was he the one that said he didn't keep them well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Adam Mania shared a clip from the show Adam 12 from 1972. And it's basically it's a cop going into this girl's apartment, and she's like, she's I think an adult entertainer, and she's like, blah blah blah. Maybe you've seen my work. I go by the name Don Patrol, and so a nice little Don Patrol reference there. But
and he's talking in that cop voice from 1972.
Well, I wouldn't know about that, man, but thanks for the offer.
Thank you.
And we got the bracket going on. I think.
Josh, you're doing a good job with that.
Oh,
you are. There's been a few wrong decisions, but
so we got.
I have people backing me up on that.
So we got Let Him Run going against Call My Name today. Looks like Call My Name's going to win.
Yeah, it has to.
Restless Kind is beating Faces today. Can't Find Me a Thrill is beating Walk in the Future, and It's Not Over is losing to I Know Tonight. But some of the upcoming ones that are going to be good is Eddie's Coming Out Tonight versus Chipping Away. There is
Eddie.
Touch of Madness versus Night Machines coming up. Sing Me Away versus Halfway to the Sun.
Do you hear me?
It sucks bad enough when we do an album and we've got to put them in order on an album, but this is eliminating songs. Period.
I'm going to abstain.
Goodbye versus Color Your Smile. And Don't Start Thinking I'm Alone Tonight versus At Night She Sleeps. Those are some of the remaining second rounders. So it's all fun. Everybody's having a good time with it. So
hey, can I real quick say while we're talking about the fans in motion, Josh, we started this less than a year ago, right? We're coming up on a year in April.
The page was April.
And I just want to say we talked about pre-production. We're at 2,900 members, man. That is impressive. I think. I don't know if it is or isn't, but I think that's impressive. And I think just a quick little. I know we nod to the page as much as we can, but just good job, people, man. Get out there and tell your friends. Come on to join the family. It is awesome to see so many people gravitating. I mean, we need more because we know there's more out there. That's a fact. But we're slowly building this thing into something, and I love being a part of it. And so the first things I do in the morning is I get up and I check Fans in Motion on Facebook and see where we're at, and what's going on, and who's posting pictures, and try to chime in and I see what bad decisions the voters have made on the songs, and I judge the hell out of those people.
Well, it's not us. It's the band Night Ranger, man. We've just created a place for all the fans to
yahoos
to join, and like I said, it's like the No Rain video from Blind Melon, where the little bumblebee girl thinks she's by herself, and at the end, there's
a bunch of us.
Yeah.
So I just want to quickly say thank you once again to everybody that's part of this massive little project we started.
Tom Chapin had mentioned about all the new people joining. He had noticed, and I replied. I said, "Yeah." I said, "We're getting a lot of new people." I said, "But it's funny. Some of these people we'll never hear from again. I mean, they want to join it, and they'll remain silent, and then one day they'll post something so awesome, and you're like, when did they join? 8 months ago, Sure. But it doesn't mean that they're any less special because they're getting the stuff in their news feed and they have to see it. So, and maybe that's all some people like. I'm on pages like that.
Yes.
So
I just wanted to do that real quick, Josh. Anything you need to say?
Got a couple. We try to do a contest on every episode, so I got a couple that I need to pick winners for. The first one is the signed David Lauser, or it's the Sammy Hagar. When the Party Started, Volume 1. It's most of his hits after Van Halen, but signed by our friend David Lauser, drummer for Sammy. What I'm going to do with this one, because there were so many people that entered, is I've pulled up all the comments, and I can just scroll and up and down and blah, 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 all the way up, and I can see it all the way down. And so I'm just going to go through, and right there.
Brett Walter.
No, that's sorry. I can only ship to the U.S. until Night Ranger puts me on payroll. All right, so I went all the way up. So let's.
Josh won his own.
All right, I guess I go too far up. All right there. All right, Timothy Allen Bauman. Eagles Fly was his favorite song. So,
all right, Timothy Allen.
If you're listening, you are the winner. I will give you till the next time we record. I'll give you 48 hours. How about that? I better put something in print because I don't know when we're recording because we got to record these early. So, listen, you got 48 hours from the time I release the next episode here. So that would be like Thursday afternoon. Get a hold of me, Timothy, and this bad boy is yours. If not, I'm just going to scroll through it again. Next time I will give it to U.S. shipping only. And then we have, courtesy of our buddy John Haynes, the signed 7 Wishes, signed by Brad, Jack, Carrie Kelly, and Kelly Keagy. And it does have a couple photos of Jack and Kelly signing it. So, this was a little harder to enter. You had to do a little bit of work. You had to just take not much. Had to take a screenshot of you being subscribed to the YouTube page and just post the screenshot on the Facebook page in the comments. That's all you had to do. So, we've got John Davey, Marianne Sicocella. I don't know how to pronounce it right, but that's the Italian way. Ed Hochstatter.
It's a Josh way.
Ed Hochstatter. He would like to say Hochstatter. Lisa Johnson Haynes, Gail Roman, Dave Nadelman, Patty Soros, Carrie Ann Supton, Richard Jenkins, Kathy Kirkman Lane, Emily Medler, Jeannie Dorian, Tom Sparrow, Dave Glazer, and Steve Romig. So here you go. Let me
very nice.
Share those.
Yeah. So cool, man.
I forgot.
Go ahead.
I forgot he said to post a picture. Yeah. I kept thinking, why is everybody posting a picture watching us?
Yeah. I like the one that people took of me drinking my coffee.
Yeah.
Sweet. Way to time that right. This is a really cool prize. This is one that I wouldn't mind having in my own little collection, but I don't dare enter the contest because I do not want anybody to think that it is rigged nor fixed. So I will just quietly sit here and watch someone win something that should be mine.
It'd been
All
funny
right,
if
so
Kelly
there's-
Keagy would have done it.
Yeah.
There's they are, and there I'm just going to take this one. Who do you got? Who do you got?
It is Marianne.
Pronounce
Chick-
it, Brent.
Sicko.
Yeah.
No, I
yeah.
can't. Sickolella.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Chicacola. Chicacola.
Anyways,
you're gonna have to tell us how to
Marianne, you
pronounce your
got
name.
it. So,
Congrats, Marianne. That's awesome.
what I say, 48 hours on the other one? Right?
Yes.
48 hours,
When
Marianne.
this is released.
And then for this episode, what should we do? Let's do, just go to the Facebook page and,
Tell me what's on the bottom of this shirt I'm wearing. There's a name at the bottom of this shirt.
Well, we've talked about it before.
Well, but you have to watch the episode and find out. You have to know who it is.
Or tell me how many dogs are barking in my backyard right now.
Oh, I know that.
Oh, yeah, I know you do. There's 5 next door to me. 5.
Let's do this. Just put in there,
How many dogs does Brent have next door to me?
just what I want you to do is type something under the podcast link or podcast post that's at the top of the Facebook page for part 2, and just put there my favorite part or my favorite thing of part 2 was, and then whatever. And if you started off with my favorite part or thing of part 2 or whatever was this, I'll enter you into the drawing. There'll be 2 winners. We got a Brad Gillis guitar pick.
Nice.
And we got a James Young of Styx
Oh, nice.
guitar pick as well. So there
And Josh,
you go.
when you say my favorite part, you mean their favorite part, but you want them to say
My
This
fa-
was
yeah,
my
my
favorite
favorite thing I learned or something of the set part 2 was,
gotcha.
Hearing Kelly, tell the story about playing the Hawaiian Islands in rags or something.
So it can't be about the part where we're just talking right now.
Well,
Sure.
do that.
My
Well,
favorite part
I
was
tell you what, if they list that as their favorite part of part 2, they got
they
fucking
win
issues.
everything.
I'm gonna
I'm
send
like-
them something. I'm gonna send them
Yeah,
something
got-
from our sponsor, Mentos.
like that's your favorite part. That really, I almost block them just for general purpose. But there you go. Andy, take us into Kelly Keagy part 2.
That's it, everybody. Sit back and enjoy. This is gonna be awesome. I know, because I know what's coming. So enjoy Kelly Keagy part 2.
Welcome, everyone, to part 2 of your Fans in Motion podcast interview with Mr. Kelly Keagy of Night Ranger.
All right, boys.
Part 1 took us from his youth to the early 70s. Before we get started, Kelly, I got something for you. I'm only going to play a snippet because I don't want a copyright strike.
Got it, Bennett.
So was that the first 45?
Yeah, who's the band?
The Marcells.
Yeah, I think it was. If it was in late 50s,
Would this be the label you had?
holy shit, that's amazing, Eric. That's incredible.
Because I did.
Yeah, that was the one, man. That was my first one.
Because there is 2 labels out there. That's the one I had, so I didn't know if that would be the one that you had or not. But there you go, Kelly Keagy's first 45, and probably our first copyright strike. But
Yeah.
there you go.
Get our attorneys ready.
So, Kelly, on the last interview, we went through the youth and your youth and moving to Oregon in the late 60s, early 70s, and we talked about
Yeah.
we talked about you starting your career in music and how your dad was just worried if you were getting paid good and benefits, but we didn't talk. We kind of brushed over how your mom was one of your biggest sources of encouragement, and sometimes that gets. The people that encourage you is not as good story as the people who discourage you, and you overcome that. Can you just give us a few examples of how your mother encouraged you and how that helped you early in your career?
Well, I think I know we told the story about the first drum set and all.
Yep.
My buddy Matt and John and Jeanette McIntyre, the actors, and their son got the drum set from him. And it was when she came over to see us play, because the neighbor's mom, Matt's mother, said, got on the phone and said, "Have you heard them play yet?" And my mom said, "No, what are they doing?" And she said, "You got to come over." They're right across the street. She came over, and she was crying when we started playing. So she was there right in the beginning, watching me develop, and she was like, "Where did you learn how to do that?" I go, "I don't know. I just picked up the, it's like I have a good ear," or whatever I said back then. And she was just astounded that I was picking it up, And then it went on, for a couple of years like that. And we got my friend John Pileggi in the band. So that was the thing, is she was always, she got us at one of our first gigs, I think, it was like
wow.
playing a wedding or something, It was amazing. Yeah. This thing's. I'm getting a message here. I don't know what this is. Okay.
It's from Jack. He's pissed that we turned him down to do the Kelly Keagy interview.
Show up to the gigs. We have somebody. Dean Castronova is taking over.
What did your mom think of Night Ranger? Like when you were at your peak, what did she? Because she's obviously seeing her little boy that she bought the first drum kit for, and now you're playing huge, arenas, and you've written this iconic song that's all over TV. Any stories? What was her thoughts seeing you at your peak?
She did the normal thing where she just got on board with. She always had, shirts on, jacket. I gave her some jackets. She had a license plate that said "the mother of Night Ranger." I mean, it's like, and she, she was in that little community in Oregon, Elmira, Oregon. So it was like everybody knew her. Everybody was like, "How's your boy?" The whole thing. So she was very, very proud, and always she would call the radio station and go, "Play some Night Ranger," and so they started recognizing her voice back then. Go, "Oh, Mrs. Keagy, oh yeah, we'll get to it in an hour or so." So she was just like the total like rah, like just supportive all the way, 100%. Not that my dad wasn't; he was. It took him a while to get on board, but once we started, getting out there, he was into it. But she was the one all the way, and all the steps from all the times from that step, the neighborhood kid to going on to playing, like supporting myself for almost 12 years in nightclubs and then into the Night Ranger thing. I mean, she was just there 100% always, and yeah.
Well, it's great that you had that encouragement, especially at a young age, because you from her buying you your kits to just believing in you, that that can be a stepping stone and a push to get you to that next step, to where people that don't have that maybe never realize their full potential. So you said in the late 60s, early 70s, you moved to Oregon, and you're in a band that's touring the Northwest states, correct? In the early 70s. What kind of venues are you guys playing at that point?
We're playing like just nightclubs, anywhere where there were dancing was going on, because it was the disco era. So we were playing some of our own music. We would slip it in, because they discouraged that. They just wanted you to play all the top, 40 hits.
Yeah.
So we did that. And we did our own spin on it. That was Rags. I think we brought that up. We talked about Rags. I think. Didn't we?
Well, Rags is when you went back to back down to San Francisco, correct?
That's correct. You're right.
I want to focus on just a little bit more on before that, when you're still up in the north.
That's correct. It wasn't Rags yet. It was another band. What were they called? I'm trying to come up with the name. I want to say was. I'll come up with the name. Yeah. We can insert it in there. But that started in 1972. Mm-hmm. 72 into 70, 73. That whole year. Mm-hmm. Well, a couple of years there. We were just playing all over the Northwest. It was all just dance clubs, nightclubs. Probably.
What brought on the move though from doing those gigs with that band to wanting to go back to California? What was the catalyst that brought that about?
We got a booking agent saw us up there in the Northwest and wanted to book us in the Bay Area. So we ended up coming down there and playing. We'd get 5-week stays at places. They would hire you for a long time, being out of town and all that. So that's what we did. We came down to San Jose, got an apartment and just started playing and basing ourselves out of there for a while.
So that band that came down with you from the Northwest to San Francisco, what was that Rags, or did you eventually leave that band and go form Rags? Or
yeah, it was pre-Rags. So it was I'm having a brain lapse right now, but because it was so long ago, I'm like, God, what was that? I have been in touch with the guitar player, Don Spencer, since the last year. Good friend of mine who played guitar in the band, and he still lives in Oregon. He lives in the Dalles. Mm-hmm. Him and I have been talking about old times. Like the first time we ever went out of town was Alaska, with that band. We went up for a month up in Alaska, which was totally weird. We were up there, when the sun never set. The sun never went down.
So
and we never slept either.
When you do that, when you get a gig for a certain period of time in Alaska, are you feeling a sense of accomplishment? Like I'm really doing this. I'm making it.
Yeah. I mean, first time going out of town, we were all like, "Man, this is great." It was not nearly as hard as what we ended up doing, which is playing one-nighters all over the country. Staying in one place for a while, you actually get to know people. You get to, you make friends. It was great. We had a great time. Met other musicians up there. I mean, in fact, when I went back with Night Ranger in 1984, some of those people came out to the show. We got a chance to meet some of those folks. Again. Reacquire the friends that we had in 1971. Pretty amazing. That whole time, it was a learning time too. It was like how to figure out your instrument, how to learn how to play a cover song, but it actually helps you decide what your style is going to be and where you want to go direction-wise, music. So those are really great times because I learned all styles of music. It wasn't just rock,
So how because Rags is, would you consider Rags was Rags on another level than these previous bands?
Probably, probably just another step up because the other bands were pretty good too. I mean, they were, I was the youngest one. I was like 19, everybody else was 25. Felt like they were old men, But the previous band was almost like we had horns in the band, so we did a bunch of Chicago songs, because those were the songs of the time, So it was different because Rag's a little more rock. Mm-hmm. So we tried to concentrate on it being rock, but we did have to play funky and danceable. It had to be danceable.
Was Rags a band that you that you formed, or was Rags a band that you joined?
I joined. The band was already together, but they weren't really doing the level of playing in clubs like they wanted to. They wanted to make a step up to playing, weeks at a time in different places and have some sort of, a longevity and build it a little bit. So we did, that was 5 years of that, of Rags, we definitely accomplished some things. We got paid well, we were well established in the Bay Area, played all around all the clubs between San Francisco, San Jose, Oakland, and then we would go out of town. We played in Hawaii for, they'd contract us up there for 6 weeks. We played at the Sheraton, then we went to Alaska for a month over the winter time and then come back home and then start up the whole thing again. And just did that for like 5-6 years,
I got a magazine here from November of 1976. And in there I found a little snippet where they basically it's under this page and it's where it's nightclub news of the Bay Area. Yeah. And there's a little snippet here also returning from the islands at about the same time as Rags. They'll be heading straight for the studio to get all that energy they've built up during their tour to tape while it's still fresh. So would the islands be Hawaii? Is that where you guys were? And so there is that little snippet there from November of 76. Do you? I'm just going to throw something random out. Do you remember the Tar and Feather Saloon? That's just a cool advertisement I see in the Bay Area for a Daddy-O was playing there, and Heartwood and Jeff Pearson. But here is another thing I found. So it's a calendar, November of 76. It was for Windfall wants you to put this calendar out and hang it on your wall or something. We even put lines under each date so you can write in. But if you look right here, you got the calendar. And if you look right there, I don't know if you guys can see it. There is a band there called Rags. And Kelly Keagy, I must say. Now, is that you?
I look like I just jammed with Santana.
Is that
Santana
you
Man.
with the nice afro?
What's that?
You gotta hold it still.
Well,
yeah, afro, beard. The
yeah,
whole thing.
beard and mustache, and I guess you would look like the young one. But there's one guy without facial hair. You guys probably should have fired him. But
they got all the chips.
Hold that up. Hold it up real
it's
good.
kind of here. You guys are gonna have to direct me. It's this one right here where my finger is.
Yeah, stay right there.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah, right there.
Back it up a little bit.
Lord have mercy.
But I get these
Man,
magazines.
that's so cool.
So do you know who's in that band?
No.
Jesse Harms is a keyboard player who played with
Sammy.
For
Yeah.
years. Many years he played with Sammy. That's Jesse sitting down on the. So we played in that band. Then he went on to play. He moved to L.A. after that, and he eventually got the gig with Sammy Hagar. Played with a lot of people. Man, he's got a great history. He played a lot of great songwriters and toured and stuff way before I did. He was out there doing it,
The other picture alongside you guys is a band called The Casuals, spelled with a K.
The Casuals, yeah.
I knew they were serious with the K.
They could cover Earth, Wind, and Fire. If you closed your eyes while they were playing their songs, you'd be like, that's the record playing.
Wow.
I mean, they were like absolutely perfect at covering Earth, Wind, and Fire. It was amazing.
Yeah, then the other bands are pictured on there as Powerhouse.
Powerhouse, yeah.
And Circus, spelled with a K.
The lead singer from Powerhouse was in the band prior to Rags that I was in. So she was Pam Thrall. She was in if we could ever find the name of the band I was in before. I know if Don ever sees this before the guitar player from the band, he's going to be like, you didn't even know the name of the band.
You don't remember us, dude.
But yeah, Pam Thrall played, who is Pat Thrall's sister. Pat Thrall played with with Pat Travers.
Yeah.
And a bunch of different bands. He played with Meatloaf and yeah. So she went on to play in Powerhouse. So we were all basically doing the same circuit.
Yeah.
The same. They'd be there the week before, then we'd come in. Same thing. Go to Hawaii, they would come in. We'd come in, a month later. It's great little network that we had, with Windfall Management. They managed all the bands.
Okay, so Windfall, that's actually an average. I thought it was something the magazine just put in like as a calendar. You know how like our old rock calendar, our rock magazines were.
Yeah.
But when you said Windfall, there's a small little Windfall logo at the very bottom, so it was actually an advertisement for their bands.
Old bands.
Yeah, just another little thing in here I thought was interesting. You remember the club, the old Waldorf?
Oh, absolutely. That was where all the rock bands came through. If they couldn't draw more than 2,000 people,
okay, they
would come there, and then if they were a new band, they would come through there. So all the new music, so that was a rock club that was national, that brought all national acts in.
Well, in November, you had Les Paul and Mike Bloomfield one night, and the other night you had Tower of Power. But what drew me to it was Tuesday, November 2nd, election night coverage. So that would have been the Jimmy Carter and Gerald Ford election.
Wow, that's great.
They're advertising it on a big screen color TV. But and one other thing, it's the earliest in this magazine. It's the earliest I've ever seen anything mentioned of Rubicon. There is a Head Start talent agency representing different bands, and Rubicon is one of them. So that's the earliest mention I have of Rubicon. So. What is there of Rags? Is there any audio or photos besides that one?
Sure, I got tons of demos. I got all those demos. I got all of them.
Kelly, there are people out there.
You can't have them either.
Come on.
Yeah.
You need okay. So here you go. All right. So when the touring season dies down, you need to you need to get with.
Andrew would be so pissed if you got him before him. He would be so pissed.
Well,
don't tell anybody.
But yes, you need to get back with the guys and get those out there, because there's hardcore fans out there that want to hear some pre-Night Ranger Kelly Keagy / Rags.
Absolutely.
But it's cool to know, because I don't think anyone's ever been able to confirm that there is audio out there. Is it just demos, or is there any live recordings?
No live recordings, all just studio demos. Yeah.
Now, were you singing at that point?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
The demos. Were you singing?
Bad, but there's a couple of, there, and it was the disco era, so we were trying to, be current. So it was a lot of that, kind of beats in there, and
yeah. A little bit of Sanford Sun going on.
Yeah.
Now, how about photos? Any photos that you have?
Oh yeah, there's. But none that I have. But I could probably find them. We recently had it's probably about, I want to say 8 years ago. We had a reunion with all the Rags guys, and we went to. This is really funny. We went to a place that we actually played back in the day to have dinner, and we sat there and just went over stuff and just had a great old time. Just talked about just all the stuff that we had been through and the travels and just some of the knuckleheads we ran into, and just had a great time catching up. 2-3 hour dinner, and and all those guys are still around. If I hit them up right now and asked them if they had any outtakes and photos and stuff like that, I bet they could come back with a bunch,
Well, it number one, there's a lot of fans of yours out there that would love to see that, but also it would be a good way to celebrate that era of your
I agree.
career.
Yeah.
Let's
You're
get them
right,
all
that could be
on a
another
Zoom
segment.
call.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? What we're going to do is now that we're practically best friends, you will get random texts down the road that I'm like, hey, I want a Rags guy on the podcast. Hook me up.
Oh shit! Oh my God!
So
That
we can get the real story on Kelly Keagy.
Yeah,
And-
it'll be all lies. It's like turn my whole story upside down. It'll be all lies. It'll be like, oh no, that wasn't right. He wasn't even in the band then.
let me tell you about the time that Kelly almost got arrested outside the old Waldorf.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Like Kelly,
He wasn't even playing the drums. There was a guy back behind the keyboards.
Yeah.
You know.
exactly.
So how does Rags? So you're in Rags. Let me ask you. I want to stay with Rags for a second. Did you think? You know, because obviously you're a musician. Yes, you're making a living, but I would assume you want to keep getting bigger, and recording contracts and
We didn't even know what that means. Of course, yeah, we were. Yeah.
Did you think that Rags had that potential, or is that why you went to Rubicon?
There wasn't any preconceived idea with that. It was pretty much like where you're at, try to make that work. After a while, we realized that we just weren't. It was like after 5+ years, getting demos out there and trying to, and getting the feedback like, yeah, it doesn't really, it didn't really sound like for one thing too, record companies are looking at, like, if you send in a demo and it sounds like now, you're gone. You're already history. So they're already looking like, what's the next thing going to be?
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to sound. So that's what we were still in the 70s, So it was kind of like that, they were, but we did have some songs that got some comments about, this sounds like a hit right now. So, we were kind of going on that. We tried to keep that energy going. But, when it really got down to, was we were playing 5 days a week playing covers.
Mm-hmm.
So we weren't really just concentrating on our music. It was everybody else's music,
Was Rags... Go ahead, Brent.
I was going to say, how fortunate, though, were you to be in San Francisco networking with all these other musicians to be able to go somewhere else, to be able to go into a Rubicon? I mean, that's fantastic.
Well,
I mean, there had to be a brotherhood in that city, in that area, where, like you said, you knew everybody.
Well, talking about that, I mean, how I got asked to join Rubicon was Brad. He was doing the same thing I was in another band, and they were called Arm & Hammer, great band, and Brad was in that band, and he came to one of the Keystone nightclubs in the Bay Area that we were playing at. Rags was playing at. He saw me play. He saw that I could sing. So when it came up that Greg Eckler was about to leave Rubicon, Brad knew that I could probably fit that bill. And I got a call from Brad, saying, hey, would you be willing to audition, because I know you sing and play drums. So that's how that happened, is that Brad called me up. And then I was in LA at the time, and I went back up to the Bay Area to audition for Rubicon and got the gig.
When you got that call, was Rags already done?
Yeah.
Okay.
Rags had been done for, I don't know, maybe 6 months.
Right.
And Jesse had gone down to LA to be to play with Alphonso Johnson. Alphonso Johnson was a jazz fusion musician who had played with Weather Report and some of these other bands, and was trying to do a more pop rock situation. And Jesse was asked, to join that thing because Jesse was a good songwriter. And then I was asked to actually not really join that band, but to come down and be a part of those demos with Alphonso Johnson. So I was down in LA when Brad called me. This is probably 1978, after Rags had, You know, it was like shortly after Rags broke up in '78, I believe. So like early '79 is when Brad had called me. Like I want to say like January, February.
So while you were in Rags, though, you were aware of Rubicon?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, being a Bay Area band, I was aware of Rubicon, of Jerry Martini. Not so much of the other musicians, but that Jerry had started a new band.
Do you remember Jack's band before Rubicon, I think called Rampage? Sure.
Vaguely, but I knew the name because I think it was associated with a Don, you know, with the Windfall Management situation, because he basically was booking all of the bands. So he was not really necessarily a manager of all those bands, but he was a booking agent.
Okay.
So he probably booked them. Yeah, absolutely. Rampage.
Do you remember the first time you ever met Jack Blades?
Yeah, I was at the audition for Rubicon.
Okay, I didn't know if you had met him prior. Now but had you met Brad prior to?
I had met Brad when he was in Arm & Hammer.
So tell us a little bit about your first time meeting Brad.
Well, Brad, okay. When Brad, I think he was still in Arm & Hammer, but we were about to switch guitar players, and Brad came and auditioned for Rags. He came in, he was still like 19 years old, right? I think. So this is before he got into Rubicon. So Brad came and auditioned, but the reason why we didn't pick Brad, we thought he was like over-the-top amazing player, but he didn't sing lead. Everybody in Rags, except for the bass player, sang lead. So we could trade off and just have this like different hodgepodge, soup of different voices and stuff. So the guitar player, Jeff Hartman, was leaving the band in Rags. And so when he auditioned, we were at Hank's place, Windfall Management's place. He had some rehearsal rooms in the back. And Brad came over and rehearsed with us and played a couple songs with us. And then we just jammed, you know. We just got into jamming because we knew that Brad just wanted to bust loose and not play some of these cover tunes, you know. So we did that. We were like, oh, my God, this guy is insane. You know, do you sing lead? No, I don't sing lead. And we were like, oh, man, that's going to be a deal breaker, you know.
But he was a young, over-the-top guitar player even back then.
Yeah,
I mean, wow.
Absolutely.
Was he using the tremolo and all that back then?
You know. So
he probably not then, Andy.
No.
But
he got the second or third Floyd Rose after Eddie Van Halen got his.
But
and in fact, he acquired the second one.
Yeah.
He doesn't use. He just has it in a box, I believe. Now I might be wrong with that, but I think he does have the first two or three, you know, that were made.
Wow.
And they don't really work, I guess, because they're still prototypes, you know. But Brad is like one of those guitar players. Of course, you know he's a collector, but he's one of those guitar players that could tear apart his guitar and rebuild it. He knows every nut and bolt in that thing.
Yeah.
In fact, his red guitar was honed out so many times. Like if you flip that guitar over, you'd see all these patches where his brother said, oh, I got this idea for a new MIDI wireless switching system. You got to try it. So he's like, you know. And the thing weighed 50 pounds when he got all electronics on it, you know. So it was pretty exciting to see that thing grow, you know, into this monster, you know.
Yeah.
Now, before the Rubicon call, did you ever cross paths with an individual named Alan Fitzgerald?
Oh,
before Rubicon.
Just when he moved in to Jack's house. Fitz was with Gamma, Ron Marcos. So he would go in between playing with Sammy, and then Sammy started up Gamma in 1979. So and they were Jack and Fitz were friends. So he moved in to Jack and Molly's house, and you know, because he'd come into town for maybe 2 weeks because they were touring a lot. So that's where I met Fitz. was when he was just kind of a roommate of Jack's in Mill Valley, playing with Ronnie Montrose, and I think Ronnie was being managed by the great promoter Bill Graham at the time. So then that's how we got connected with Bill Graham Presents, and they threw us on some shows that, you know, we had no business being on, but we got a shot to play in front of like 30,000 people and being an unknown band with no albums out. So that's how we got that connection, was through Fitz.
Well, let's hit Fitz up later on. I want to get to the phone call that is the, I guess, the little spark that will be eventually turn into Night Ranger. So where are you at when you get that call from Brad?
I'm working in an antique store, refinishing furniture.
Really?
In Glen, California, right? So that's what I ended up doing. I went down to play with Alfonso Johnson and Jeff Arms, and then that was just like a little rehearsal. We did some demos, you know, and then I just stayed down there because I wanted to see what was going to happen. Maybe I could get a gig. You know, I eventually started to audition for some other bands that were around that were playing different music, playing Latin, funk, and shit like that. And so I went and auditioned with some guys, and they just about said, yeah, we want you to be in the band. It's great, blah, blah, blah. And then Brad called me when I got home from one of those auditions and said, hey, you know, what do you think about coming to audition for Rubicon? And I was like, let me think about it. Yes. You know, that was like next day, got on a plane. Plane flight was like $59 from LA to San Francisco.
So that was a lot of money then, though.
I'll tell you, it was my whole paycheck. So, so I went up and auditioned and brought the drums with me on the plane. Like, just check, you know, put them all in one big case and checked it, you know.
Oh.
I didn't think about that. So went up there for a couple days and auditioned, and at Jerry Martini's house up in Sebastopol. It's way north, it's in the wine country up there by Petaluma. So went up there and stayed with Jerry for a couple days, and then everybody came up and we auditioned, and I went back to LA. And wasn't very long after I got back. It was probably a day or two that they decided that I'd probably be the guy for the job and stuff. Because I took those albums, you know, they gave me about a week to learn the material before the auditions, you know. So that was a time, I was trying to back into it. But after I got the call from Brad, it was about a week, I think, before I went up there and actually auditioned. And so I got the albums, and I just studied everything, and they kind of gave me a list. And I just, and that's how I learned. Like, I don't write charts or anything like that.
Right.
I just saturate myself with it, you know. I've gotten other gigs like that in Nashville where these songwriters want you to play 30 songs. It's like, oh my God, I have to sit there and listen 100 times, you know. But that's how I did it. I listened to the Rubicon stuff over and over and over again, and went up there and basically nailed it, you know, like a record. So, and then, that's how it started.
Let's talk about the audition. So the audition, like you said earlier, is where you met Jack Blades.
Correct.
So what was your first impression of Jack? Jack,
energized always, just like he is. His personality hasn't changed one bit. He's just always like on top of it, sharp. You know, he's and he was very, very he was listening to my playing, you know, listening to every note. He had a couple comments here and there, like, maybe don't. I was adding some of my own stuff in there. And he said, I don't know if you should do that, you know, that one part you were doing on the hi-hat or whatever on one of the songs. And Jim Pugh, the keyboard player, said, no, man, let him do some of that hipper stuff. Yeah, let him put some of that stuff in there. You know, so there was kind of like that already interplay already going on. You know, once we started to communicate well, you know, it was like it really seemed like we were going to go further. You know, that was a great great time for me because it was suddenly like I felt like I was making that giant leap from playing cover music, which is not a bad thing. I mean, people think that that's a bad thing, and we did too. We felt like we got to get out of this, you know. Yeah. We can't do that. But it is a nice stepping stone to learn your own and have your own style of music. I mean, you can take all forms of music and all sorts of input and make it your own style.
Sure.
So that's how the audition went great. It was fun. Really enjoyed everybody. I mean, Max Haskett was alive then, trumpet player.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask you about each of those guys before we get any further. I've always said if I won the lottery, there's certain things I would buy for my Night Ranger museum, right? Because I would invest, if I won $100 million, $10 million of it's going to the Night Ranger Museum that I've designed in my head. And the one things I want is, I want to know if they still exist. When you had that audition with Jack, those glasses
I knew that was coming.
that he wore, are those still in existence?
Probably. You know, in his studio where we before we moved to Sonoma County, those glasses I believe were in a case.
Really?
His platform, patent leather platform boots, and maybe a couple of those satiny outfits that he used to wear.
That's
the lederhosen that he wore. And
well, next time you talk to Jack, get us an answer on that because there's even some early Night Ranger photos. Well, I guess it'd be Ranger photos.
Yeah.
Of Jack still wearing the glasses, and why we joke about it is because I think I've had a couple albums signed by Brad, and Brad does not miss the opportunity to give Jack some shit about the back covers and stuff. But
you could have done a hell of a laser show with him. Bouncing reflecting them off the glasses.
Could have been like the Elton John.
Yeah.
We could have.
Yeah, exactly.
Bass player, Elton John on bass playing.
So let's get to the audition. I want to talk about
fantastic.
who all was there. You mentioned Jimmy Pugh on keyboards, which I actually got to meet Jimmy once, and he was great and signed by Rubicon Albums and told me some great stories about running into you guys in the 80s and some studios. And I think maybe he was the best man at Jack's wedding or something like that, or was at Jack's wedding. Just tell me a little bit about your experiences, with Jimmy Pugh.
Well, I lived with Jimmy.
Really?
In the beginning of Rubicon. And I lived with him in San Francisco. We lived right next to a bar. That was another great experience. We had, it was wonderful, man. You could just like stumble out and go back home, But so I lived with Jimmy while we were trying to get that whole thing together and try and keep Rubicon going. And it just music was changing. It was just totally changing. And so that's when we decided to do the stereo thing, but we wanted to keep an element of Rubicon together. So it was Jerry playing sax, but that audition was an eye opener because Max Haskett, for one thing, was a hero, being in the Bay Area band, Cold Blood. I mean,
with Lydia Pitts.
Those were like some of the best musicians in the world playing in that band. So I'm set up here. Jack is here. Jim Pugh's right there. Max is right here. I'm looking at him. It's like all these like people that are just raising me up to this other level. Johnny Cola, before Huey Lewis, he's there. So he's starting to rehearse with us because they had a couple of gigs, I guess, out there that they wanted to see if they could get the band.
So when you auditioned, was Johnny Cola already there, or was Dennis Marcelino?
Johnny was there.
Okay.
I think Jerry asked him to come over and say, "Hey, man, if you're not doing anything right now with anybody else or Huey," I think Huey, it was in the embryonic stages of Huey Lewis in the News. So I think that, but they weren't, they were just playing,
So
so Johnny was there, Max, and Jerry, those three horns,
And you don't think you were in the band at the same time as Dennis Marcelino?
Yeah, no, he was not there.
He was not there.
So no Dennis. It was just Pew, Jack, myself, Brad, the horn section, and that was it.
And so let's talk about. I want to talk a little bit about Max Haskett. I think maybe his second wife, I found on Facebook. I think I found a picture of Max, and I found this folder, and her name is Susan Bridgeford, and she was married to Max through the 80s and 90s until he passed. Anyways, I had to message her because I was like, this is a great tribute that you put together for him, because before that he was just a dude on the back of one of my albums, and after looking at that tribute she did, I was like, I almost felt like I knew the man. So Max, and I want to bring Max, I'm really going to jump ahead, but he comes back into the Night Ranger world. Is he the Max that sings backup on Big Life?
Yes.
All right.
We brought him in. He came back into our life. I'm trying to figure how that happened too. We just, I don't know, he came to one of our gigs, and then we said, why don't you come up to the studio? And it was probably something like that. And then he did, and he ended up singing with us. And I know, it's like unbelievable. And it's like people come back into your life after so much time in between,
Well, just like I said, just that big arc from Rubicon. Then I don't know if I put it together right away, but eventually down the road I was like, well, backup vocals, Max Haskett. It's just unique how that comes full circle. Now, joining Rubicon had to be a good thing too, because I think Greg Eckler sang about half of the songs on each album.
Correct.
So you're basically coming into a band that you're going to be the lead singer of half of their catalog.
Totally.
What was the condition of the band Rubicon when you joined it? Because the first album had been released in '77. It did have a top 40 hit, but it didn't perform as well as they would have liked. The second album, released in '79, American Dreams, really didn't take off as well. So you're joining the band after kind of two disappointments. Did you get a sense that maybe this isn't quite what you thought you were joining after being accepted into the band?
Eventually, yes. Because what we did is we did some gigs. We had some fun playing a few gigs around locally. And then we attempted to do some new music, and I think the new music didn't come until after the changes in the band happened. There just wasn't any energy. I mean, we came down, we did audition in Hollywood, and that didn't really, bear any fruit. Nobody jumped on it, but just because we're right there at the end of that decade where music's starting to change. So, that, and we realized, it's starting to, things are starting to change. What are we going to do? So that's when we just started to think about different changes in the band might make better for us being accepted into the new decade and into the new, I don't know. It's music's changing. It's like that's when we decided to come up with the band Stereo and just kind of strip it down and make it not so R&B oriented and more rock,
So Stereo, and for some of the people listening that don't know, Stereo is the next band after Rubicon, which will have Kelly, Jack, and Brad with some others. Is it so? I want to go from the Rubicon to the Stereo. Is it more of a morphing of Rubicon into Stereo, or is it a cold Rubicon's done and then we're forming something new, or did just gradually did Rubicon morph into stereo?
You know, I'm not quite sure how it happened. I just knew that we, at one point, it was something like, let's get together with just whoever can get together. I'm not sure if we actually said, let's just try something new.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as far as that's concerned, I'm a little fuzzy on that, how it happened.
Well, it probably happens if you're hanging out with Jerry Martini.
You know, with Jerry and Jack, yeah, exactly. With Jerry and Jack were trying to like figure out how to make the next step, you know, knowing that Rubicon really wasn't working. So, yeah, I mean, once we started jamming with the five of us, it started to take on a different shape, and we started to like, you know, see the light, like, oh yeah, this could be something different.
So when you say the five of us, who's the five?
Yeah.
Who's the five of you?
Go ahead.
It's you, Jack, Brad, and is it Jimmy Pugh and Jerry?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's sax, Brad, one lone guitar, bass, drums, and keyboard.
So you got Jimmy Pugh on keys, and then you got Jerry Martini on sax. So it's you five. And so basically it's kind of Rubicon minus Max. And,
that's all it is.
Yeah, maybe Jimmy Cola.
That and Johnny.
Yeah, Johnny
so
Cola.
Minus two horns.
Yeah.
But took on a different flavor, you know, because then Jerry wasn't a part of the section doing horn hits, you know, and stuff like that. So it definitely took on a more rock shape, you know, and then that's when we decided to you know, to do some writing with that, you know, in mind with the way it was, that setup, you know. So once we did, you know, we realized that the sax was going to play a smaller role, but still add, you know, great flavor in there, and have, you know, a different, you know, a different kind of style, you know. It would add, I mean, there's a couple other bands that came out that just had like one horn in it. I mean, you know, and they just use the horn to like a guitar.
Well, you know? Springsteen was at his peak.
Springsteen, right? Also, the chick that sang and played horn.
Quarterflash.
Thank you.
Was that? No, Martha Davis was in Motels. I was trying to think.
Yeah, Quarterflash is probably hard in my heart. Come on.
Yeah.
What time frame are we talking about, Kelly, at the beginning of stereo? Are we talking like summer of '79?
Yes, 79 and the beginning, probably the latter part of 79 as well. Okay. So it's just like a few months right there where everything is kind of like, you know, Rubicon kind of went away. We started the stereo thing. We did demos. This is all in the middle part of 79. And then we did a few, I think we did one show maybe.
Well, let me I
I
might have that show. Give me a second. Let me ask you this: band dynamics. Rubicon's Jerry Martini's band. Now you're in stereo. I mean, the way you talk, it's a natural growth, and it's did Jerry have any? How does that band dynamic change to where, you know, Jerry kind of was Jack and Brad's and eventually your boss? Does that change with stereo, and how did he accept being maybe an equal to you guys?
You know, as far as that's concerned, I wasn't really a part of some of those meetings that happened between Jack and Jerry. You know, that you know, was just kind of brought to me like, we're thinking about doing this, and what do you think? You want to be a part of it? You know, of course I did. You know, anything musical I'd be, you know, jump at, and so that's how it came about. Let's get together. Let's you know. And I think Jack had written a couple songs, you know, that weren't Rubicon, that we brought into those rehearsals and sessions that ended up being, you know, the first stuff, you know.
What what exists from the stereo era? I mean, do you still have stereo demos?
Oh, sure.
And
Absolutely. We still have all that stuff. We have the first demos that were done. Oh my God, I can't even. It was done in some little studio. It was like the size of, half the size of a garage or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we did like 3 or 4 songs. Song called "Under My Wing."
Write it down.
Under My Wing. I want to remember.
Let me scour. I'm looking for that.
Did any songs ever wind up being Night Ranger songs down the road?
Oh, you're jumping ahead of me. You're jumping ahead of me.
Well,
I'm
not. Yeah, we picked it apart at the end of stereo. There was a couple of riffs that ended up using for like.
Was "Young Girl in Love" one of those?
Some of the lyrics for "Touch of Madness" you ended up from.
Yeah. Diary of a Madman.
Well, hold on. We're still sticking with stereo. So, so was Young Girl in Love, was that a stereo song?
Young Girl in Love?
Yeah. Did that originate from the stereo era?
I want to think it did. I'm not totally positive.
Okay.
In fact, I'm going to have to dig out the reel to reel.
Yes, you are.
Jack has them too, but I think I remember I took some pictures because of the cassettes that we made it just so everybody could listen. But I think that was "Young Girl in Love." God,
I was thinking
that sure sounds right, but
to me, and I don't know where I got the info at, or if it's just me making stuff in my head, but I thought "Young Girl in Love," Penny, and maybe "At Night She Sleeps."
Definitely Penny was a part of it, no doubt.
Penny was a stereo. So,
"Under My Wing," Penny, and probably 2 other songs.
Okay. So Penny dates back to stereo. At this time, let me ask you this: you got any soundboards from that time period of you guys playing live?
Don't think we have it unless somebody caught something, a board tape or something like that. I don't think so.
Now I don't know. I don't know how accurate this is, but I do have stereo playing November 17th, 1979, at the Palms in San Francisco. Does that sound like a legit date?
Sure.
Okay. So
where did the recording come from?
I don't have the recording. I just have the information that you guys played
like the date.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I bet even Jerry was part of that too.
All right. So at this point in 79, you're writing. You got the demos with Jerry and Jimmy and Brad and Jack. Mm-hmm. During stereo, where's your drum kit at on stage when if you guys are playing November 17th?
Everything's in the back like normal.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to keep progressing there.
Yeah.
So where does you guys have any photos of you guys as stereo? Anything professional or even just, Molly has her camera and taking pictures. Do you know if any?
That's a good question. I don't think so. There's no professional shots.
Mm-hmm.
There might be some of that stuff, some of that footage of somebody taking pictures. Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. We should ask Jack because somebody's got it,
So when do you guys realize this isn't quite working? Did it happen at the same time for Jimmy Pugh and Jerry Martini? I mean, did you guys let them both go at the same time? Or when did you just realize this isn't quite what we want?
I think after doing those demos, shopping them, and getting, I think we had a manager at the time. I'm trying to think his name was Wally something. That's a good question because I didn't know him personally, but we did get a manager on board to help us with the demo and then shop it. And when we weren't getting the kind of feedback from that, that's when Fitz was in and out of town with Montrose. I think that at one point when he came off a tour and saw that there wasn't going to be any more Gamma for a while, maybe they were going to work on an album, but that it was kind of done. Just they weren't breaking up, but I think that at one point Fitz was thinking about maybe leaving. He was kind of floundering, trying to figure out. I have to ask Fitz about that, but I think that he was still staying with Jack and Molly, and came and saw us play at the Palms Cafe because we played there a lot, and he knew Jeff and had been working with Jeff in the studio because Jeff was a big Ronnie Montrose fan, so I think he met Fitz that way, asked him to probably produce his demo, and they were working in the studio. So when Fitz came to see us at the Palms Cafe, he envisioned, you know, inserting himself and Jeff into playing with us, and put that to Jack. Said, what do you think about this idea? 2 guitar players, Kelly, you and I, you know? And at one point we started to think real seriously about, well, why don't we just get together and, you know, try it out. Let's get together and jam. That's what you did back then. You just got together and played probably one time, you know. Sometimes that's how it worked. You play with them, and then you like that one guy, but maybe one guy doesn't fit, and then soon you have a couple more jams and you have a band. That's how that happened. You know, we got together with those guys, and up at Gary Peel's house, and Gary Peel, you know, and then that's how that morphed into that, like from stereo into Ranger.
So while you're with stereo, Fitz is with Gamma, which Gamma was a another Ronnie Montrose band, and you said that Fitz was renting a room off of Jack and Molly.
Right.
So that's when you met Fitz for the first time. Any first impressions or memories from that first meeting?
I don't remember anything that stuck out, just that he was a super nice guy, really intelligent and smart, and an amazing musician. Played great keyboards and amazing bass, you know. And that was the first time I met Sammy Hagar. He came to visit Fitz over there. He just came over because Sammy had a house in Mill Valley too. And he just stopped by to say hi to Fitz, you know.
So how is that being, you know, I mean, I'm just, I guess, picturing myself, you know, just sitting on my couch with my new band member, and all of a sudden, Sammy Hagar walks in the door.
Yeah.
Had to be.
Sammy Hagar is like a tornado. He walks in the room and goes, fucking out, scream out, jump out, yell out.
Oh, baby.
It's like, you know, you get it right away. There's another fireball.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That's got to be hard to keep up with if you had Sammy and Jack in the same room.
Those together.
I met him one time, and that's the way he was when I met him. I met him on the streets of Cincinnati, and just wired. Just wired.
So let's go to that first rehearsal. So you got Fitz, and he's saying, "Hey, you know, let's keep the core of stereo and try it out with me and Jeff." You said it was at Gary Peel's house, who at the time was a guitarist for Sammy Hagar, and for the last 3 or 4 decades has played with the band Boston. Just tell us a little bit about that first rehearsal. Would that have been like late '79, early '80?
Probably early part of '80, because officially the band's first gig was May 1980. I want to say May 5th, like May Day. Opening for Eddie Money at this little theater in Petaluma. I think Eddie was starting a tour, and
Would that be the Mystic?
Second album or something. But yeah, that was that officially. So it probably was the early part of '80, if not the very last month of 1979. So yeah.
So that rehearsal would that have been the first time you met Jeff Watson?
Correct.
So what?
First time I met Watson then. So he came down from Sacramento. Gary was leaving to go on tour. So Fitz said, "Can we use your studio to record demos?" And so he said, "Yeah, why don't you stay in my house? Why don't you house sit for me? I'm going to be gone for, 2-3 months. My wife's going to be somewhere else." Or I'm not sure how that worked out. Maybe she went with him for a short period. And so Fitz was alone in that house for a while. And we were able to, just take over the house for a few weeks, rehearse there, and then actually record there. So, you had an 8-track recording facility there. And then that's how we recorded the first demos that were Ranger and then Night Ranger.
What was your first impression of Jeff Watson?
Oh my God, his guitar playing is, at that point, it was so developed, and so he had his own style, which was incredibly energized. His playing, his fast picking style, really impressed us. And that was the thing that we said, this could be really good, having two guitar players both having distinct styles. It could be a really good thing for developing new songs, because they both had great ideas. I mean, what's so funny about too, like in the last couple of albums, we've been thinking about how Jeff contributed to a lot of the singles. He played a lot of the melodic solos, which everybody thought Jeff was all about speed, but he, speed and calisthenics, but it's his sense of melodic. I don't know what it's the style that he was able to connect to, other than playing his fast picking style,
right?
That enabled him to, invent these great solos that were just they were perfectly put together, and because he thought about them, and he said, "God, what can I play there that's not going to be all this like doodling?"
Well, especially the solos on the Seven Wishes singles that he's on are very melodic, and you could even say the same with Brad, the melodic guitar solo on Sister Christian.
Correct.
I think he only hits the whammy bar once, I think there.
Just enough.
Yeah. So how do you tell Jerry Martini and Jimmy Pugh that, hey, we're hitting the road?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, how that came down, I know it wasn't something they wanted to hear, because I think they were just starting to get a sense that there was something there with, that could be something they enjoyed playing and with everybody and all that. So, it's like being, in a relationship, telling somebody you're going to break up, this is not working. It's like, how would you feel being on the other side? I've been in that situation where somebody's fired me. I'm like, what? So I wasn't there, but I know that, I was living with Jimmy at the time, or somewhere close to that time. I had moved in over in Oakland with my friend Kevin, who was a singer for Rags at the time. I moved in with him, and that was in Alameda, so it was across the bay. So it was shortly after that we decided to switch the band up. And I'm sure it wasn't fun for them. They're pros, and I think they accepted it. But all the music that we had done, nobody really had. I mean, Jack was basically the writer. I think that I had written maybe one or two things. I think Sister Christian was just starting to develop then. We were just developing that song then at that point. But it was just me playing an acoustic guitar, So I think that's what we were, is just the early stages of that, developing that band before we moved to Ranger,
How soon did you guys come up with the Ranger name?
God, I want to say it was.
Gentlemen, Kelly Keagy Part 2. Unbelievable that man has given us time. Look at you guys laughing because I don't normally do these outros, but it's just so fantastic. He's lent his time to us to tell these great stories. And I don't want to elaborate too much on the episode because there's so much more. I don't want to give anything away for the next one. So you're just going to have to tune into episode 3 to hear all the other good stuff.
I will tell you this. Episode 3 takes us right up to the release of Dawn Patrol. I want to briefly mention, in episode 1, Kelly talks about going over to his friend's house, and there was a couple that were in the movie business, and he said he thought they were on Wagon Train, and they would take him to, I think, Universal Studios. She would.
It wasn't Sammy Davis Jr., their neighbor? Was that
right? Yes.
Okay.
That was John McIntyre and Jeanette Nolan. Now, John McIntyre was on Wagon Train for a lot of years, The Virginian, which these are still on, syndicated TV. And he was on many more Westerns. Just look up John McIntyre, McIntire. And then his wife was Jeanette Nolan. Jeanette was the one that he was talking about taking them to Universal Studios and everything. She's got a real extensive career as well. I mean, she was in I think Macbeth or Hamlet with Orson Welles, 1943. She was they were both like in all the Gunsmokes and everything, but she was in, I think, The Virginian as well. And she was in The Man That Shot Liberty Vance, tons of movies. And I think her last film was in the Horse Whisperer with Robert Redford. And the most important thing, at least to me,
most important to us,
was they did a lot of films together as a couple. And in their later years, they were the parents of Dan Fielding in Night Court. So just some fun stuff that I came across that I just wanted to include there as well. Also, she was the uncredited voice of Norma Bates in Psycho, 1960.
Really?
Yes, that was another one.
No, man.
And The Reluctant Astronaut, who was that? Was that Don Knotts? But she was in that.
Oh, and I gotta look.
It was Don Knotts. I just looked.
Okay.
But and I think them as a couple, they were the voice of a couple characters in the Disney film The Fox and the Hound.
That's awesome.
So, anyways, just something that Kelly had mentioned, and putting it together, I had done a little bit more research on it.
Well, one quick little bit of trivia, so I can at least add something to the end of this. John McIntyre is the name of Trapper John from MASH. So, there you go. Boom. Mic drop.
On that,
And you get some MASH trivia in there somewhere.
Hopefully everyone enjoyed the episode, and we will see you next week for Part Trace.
Go something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, go! Go!